say for anybody who's planning on moving abroad, even if you're going to a country that speaks the same or a very similar dialect or language to what you speak in your home country, every country has a different history as far as their relationships with minority and marginalized groups of people are. So the words that they use to describe people or to talk about a minority group might be different. For example, in France, the word indigenous is spelled very similar and sounds very similar to the English word. But if you use it in French, it means the same thing, but it's a slur. It's literally an insult. Like you shouldn't use that word. And then in France, so even within the same language here, you can say métis to describe anyone who is of mixed ethnic origin or racial origin. So for example, I would say my husband is métis because he's half white and he's half indigenous person of New Caledonia. And then I get to Canada and there's all these forms and you can check when they ask what your racial identity is, métis. And at first I thought it was like of mixed ethnic origins. But luckily this very first paperwork I was filling out was for the schools. And I could tell from context that they were referring to different types of Indigenous peoples of Canada. And I'm like, I'm gonna need to Google this. I should not check that box, I think, because they didn't have any other racial identities. It was just different, like First Nations, Inuit, Métis. And then I find out, in France, you don't call people of mixed origins Métis because it refers to a very specific group of people. And it is like a big no-no to call somebody who is like of a different mixed ethnic origin Métis if they're not actually part of that tribe. And I'm just like, this is so confusing. Like, I want to use the right words in every culture and every language, and at least being aware of this before you go to a different country is super good, because then if you are ever in a professional or educational setting, you'll know that this is something you should definitely educate yourself on first before speaking. Indigenous, I really thought that word would be fine in like every language. It is not. Don't say it. And if you're learning a new language, you'll get to a point where eventually you're picking a lot of it up by ear. You're just hearing people in the country where you're living using a word over and over. Double check. Even if you hear people using that word frequently, even if it's them describing their own origins, still double check. Ask them, Google it. Make sure that you, as a tourist or person that's living there temporarily, are using that word correctly and in the way you think it's coming across. And I know some people will be like, this woke is gets away. You could get fired, okay, Joe? Some people don't want to lose their fucking jobs, even though you're a racist asshole. Some people can't afford to be. So I hate people like that. I know those comments are coming. I'm gonna block them all. I hate people like that. Just try to be nice, okay? Just try to be nice and respect the culture where you're living. It's literally the bare minimum, Joe.